In a Week 18 matchup that doesn't have any playoff implications for 2024, how both teams got here and what comes next for both the Arizona Cardinals and San Francisco 49ers is wildly fascinating. It's Crossover Thursday. Let's discuss.
You are Locked On NFL Crossover, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Thursday, the final Crossover Thursday of the 2024 season. If you haven't appreciated football up until this point, shame on you. This is the last week. Everybody takes for granted. You know exactly what I'm talking about, Croc. Weeks like 7 through 14. Like, oh no, football's almost gone. I want to care about it again. Shame on you. Thanks for making Crossover Thursday your first listen, free wherever you get your podcast and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. This episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL and use code all lowercase LockedOnNFL to win $50 instantly when you play $5. My buddy Eric Crocker, we're light a Locked On 49ers host. Brian Peacock, love you, man. We'll see you again soon. Week 18. Cardinals, 49ers. Maybe not exactly where either of us thought the teams that we are covering would be at. Some similar reasons, mostly different reasons, but here we are, Croc, and we're going to break down this game and kind of talk a little bit about the future today.
Yeah, you know, early in the season, when you guys thought, you know what, the Cardinals, there might be something. I'm like, these Cardinals guys, they're crazy. They're going to be a bad team. But it started off where it was like, wait a minute, the Cardinals, they might be kind of tough. And they beat the 49ers in San Francisco, or Santa Clara. That was a game of, a tale of two halves, really, which the 49ers season has been. You know, they've started out strong in a lot of these games, and then they can't close games out for whatever reason. And that's been very detrimental to the season, along with the various, other reasons with injuries and whatnot. But every team goes through that. You got to figure out a way to play around that. And the great ones do. The 49ers haven't been able to do that. But the Arizona Cardinals, what has been the biggest issues for the Cardinals this season?
You and I and Peacock have been doing these shows for a handful of years now. And there's one thing that I constantly say when things aren't going well, and it's starting to rear its ugly head again. The only thing that's worse than having a problem is not knowing what the root of the problem is. And I'm not saying that that's what it is. People have their thoughts. It's Kyler Murray. It's offensive coordinator Drew Petzing. It's Jonathan Gannon isn't a good head coach. It's, Marvin Harrison Jr. is a bust. It's, there's all these things that people, fantasticize when really what it is this offense isn't good enough at getting Marvin Harrison Jr. involved and getting Kyler Murray in positions to succeed. And Kyler Murray hasn't done a good enough job at being that B-plus quarterback you need him to be. He doesn't have to be all world. And that's something that with the defense playing out of their shoes compared to the roster that they have, going into the season, it's frustrating, man. And I think that's what flummoxes the most of the Cardinals fan base is like, why isn't this working? And unfortunately, I have to say sometimes this was always meant for 2025 and 2024 has been kind of a gift, at least through 11 weeks. And now it's just kind of turning into a proverbial pumpkin like it has over the last month.
Yeah, in the 49ers season, kind of going very similarly, the 49ers have very high expectations. This was a team that's coming off of a Super Bowl appearance that, took the Chiefs into overtime and thought maybe, you could win that game. And you head into 2025 or 2024, you add a receiver, you get Brandon Ayuk locked in for the long term, and you're thinking, you know what, this is the season. The 49ers are pegged to make another run. And they were favorites to come out of the NFC. But unfortunately, early on, they started to get snake bitten by some injuries. And, Brandon Ayuk was one of the first to go down. Actually, prior to Brandon Ayuk, yeah, Christian McCaffrey. So you had to play half the season without him. He comes back. It doesn't look great. Then he leaves the game in the snow against Buffalo. And, so you barely got to play with him. But I thought there were other guys that stepped up throughout the season that gave the 49ers an opportunity to win. Were the 49ers this perfect team? Were they this juggernaut that you were expecting them to be? No. And I think the big question for the 49ers, I know we'll talk about these teams moving forward, but Brock Purdy, when there are a lot of things not going right around you, can you be the piece that kind of holds things together a little bit and at least gives people hope? And that was one thing that I was looking forward to seeing from Brock Purdy this season. Can he be the guy that, man, my star receiver's injured, but man, I still got George Kittle and I still got, Debo, and I got this Ricky Pearsall when he returns from his injuries that he sustained throughout the offseason, whether it was a shoulder or a gunshot wound. You had a running back that through the first quarter of the season was leading the league in the NFL in rushing. So can Brock hold things together just enough with a lot of the things that are going on around him? And I felt like that's where he kind of fell short a little bit. And those are high expectations. It's not like when you are pegged to get paid this offseason, potentially, $55 to $60 million per year, the expectations aren't going to go down once you get paid. They're only going to heighten. I thought this year was a good opportunity for him to justify why he should be paid top dollar. And I walked away thinking he's more in the realm of, and this isn't a knock on these guys, but like the Baker Mayfields of the world, who still, Baker, he's had to deal with injuries. And what do you know? His team in a poor division like the 49ers, they have an opportunity to make the playoffs. Mm-hmm. So he kind of did what I wanted to see Brock do. And I didn't think that Brock had to be perfect. I just would have liked to see him not be the reason at the end of games. Were you seeing anything like that from Brock? Yeah. Your takes, because I think sometimes when you're talking to the 49er fan base about this, they get a little defensive when it comes to their quarterback.
Yeah, no, it's interesting because I was thinking not only with Brock Purdy, but with Kyler Murray too. I'm like, man, I've had the same exact conversation because, like Brock Purdy has limitations, but different limitations than Kyler Murray, yet still every quarterback has some sort of limitation. Whether they're too wild, too conservative, they can't make the deep ball throw, they can't make the intermediate throw, whatever it is. Yeah, because with Brock Purdy, it's when everything's humming, he's perfect for that system. When things go awry a little bit, he's still good for that system. And he's not as great as he looks when everybody's healthy, 100%. And then the same with Kyler Murray. When things are going well, he looks great. And when you need a save-the-day play, we've seen them from him, but not necessarily in the amount that we would have liked to have seen from this elite, franchise quarterback in the last 6 seasons. So we're doing crossover a little bit differently. Next segment, because this is Week 18, we'll obviously talk about path to victory in the final segment. Next segment, we're going to talk about the future of two teams that have wildly different roster constructions and wildly different futures as pertaining to the salary cap. Because with that, Eric Crocker at Crocky209 on Twitter, like these two teams could not be more differently constructed. Like you look at the Cardinals defense specifically, you got Budda Baker, you got Kazir White, and you got a bunch of kids. And these guys, like, you were DB. I mean, listen, like DB is in your blood. Okay. You did Locked On NFL Draft, I believe, right? For a couple of years. Okay. So when you look at guys coming out of college, like Garrett Williams, who was born, I think it was you that told me, was a fringe late first round, early second round pick if he didn't tear his ACL in December. Okay. Cardinals got him mid third round 2 years ago. Max Melton, who Monty Osborne and Jonathan Gannon said, you know what, in the second round of last year, we don't need to draft here. We're going to trade 5 steps back, watch all the other corners go, and then take Max Melton. They let Cooley McKinstry go and Cooper DeJean and Kamari Lassiter, and they're like, you know what? Max is our guy. We've seen it. He likes to hit people, and we like that. And then there's one guy selfishly that I want to get your thoughts on specifically. Dadrion Taylor-Demerson, Rabbit, like this dude out of Texas Tech. He's going to be the heir apparent to Jalen Thompson, the strong safety position you think to go alongside Budda Baker. This dude came in right away, and he's an NFL vet. So the defense has been so fun to watch, especially there's nothing sexier than having a group of corners that stop everybody. Like the pass rush is fun. Corners are sexy. Like I think it's the toughest position to play in football.
It is. and you can never have enough guys that can cover, especially with the young guys. I'm really big, and because coverage kind of fluctuates. You can look even with some of the great ones from year to year, they can have a great year. Then the next year you take a step back. And what does a step back as a cornerback look like? Do you go from, man, I gave up 0 touchdowns. Right now, Diamador Lenore, cornerback / nickelback for the 49ers, he hasn't given up a touchdown all season. Well, the next year, if he gives up 3, is he now like worse than he was the year before? Or did he kind of, the offense was just better than him on that specific play? So coverage can kind of fluctuate, but I don't think that you can throw enough options at the cornerback position. If I'm a GM, I'm drafting corners, I'm drafting safeties, I'm drafting safeties that can cover to be linebackers. I mean, every season I'm at least throwing a few draft picks at those kind of guys at each of those levels. A corner, a safety that's going to be a linebacker. And I'd continue to try to see what can I get from this, because if you look at the 49ers, they've kind of done that a little bit. And, well, what do you know? You end up with Diamador Lenore in the 5th round, a guy who they just paid handsomely and has been worth every bit of that money. They've had guys that were able to fill in, like the Jair Browns that they got in the 3rd round. This year, they were able to get Renardo Green in the 2nd round, late 2nd round at that, the cornerback position. And he's been very good as a rookie corner, as well as add a guy like Malik Mustafa, who has been solid as well. So the 49ers, they've continued to throw a lot of different resources at the secondary. Do they have that one super stud, a Patrick Surtain or anything like that? Haven't seen that guy, but they've had a lot of guys who can definitely help and contribute to winning football games.
Eric Crocker, Locked On 49ers, Alex Clancy, Locked On Cardinals, the final crossover Thursday of the year. We're going to do something a little bit different next segment. We're going to future pace this thing. The offseason for both of these teams will not be more different than the other. Could not be more different than the other with the runway that both teams have with salary cap, quarterback, etc. We'll discuss it next. Crossover Thursday here on Locked On Podcast Network. This episode of Crossover Thursday is brought to you by our friends at the Game Time app. I just bought Game Time. I just bought tickets on the Game Time app. My mom and I wanted to surprise my stepdad. We actually went to Levi Stadium and saw the 49ers Seahawks game, where the Seahawks came back and won with the Geno Smith drive at the end of the game. Sorry to bring up old stuff, but it was a fun experience because Game Time made it easy for me. And I love going to live events, whether it's sports or music or theater or comedy, whatever it is. One of my favorite memories was that. Going there, even though, I don't cover the 49ers or the Seahawks, it was nice to see 2 other teams play at a different stadium I haven't been to yet. Now, Game Time has made it easier to get tickets for your favorite events with our new feature, Game Time Picks. These feature filters out to show you the incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Now the Game Time app, create an account. Use code LOCKEDONNFL at $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDON NFL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. All right. Eric Crocker, Locked On 49ers. Alex Clancy, Locked On Cardinals. Well, this sucks. I thought this game was going to be. I thought this game was going to mean something. If you told me in like week 11 when the Cardinals went to their bye week, I'm like, Rams and 49ers. Let's see what the Cardinals got, and then the Cardinals proceeded to crater and lose every important game since coming out of their bye week. So let's talk about this, Croc. I don't know if you know this. I don't know if 49ers fans know this. You can't pay every player on the team $100 million. It's not how it works. It's not how it works, Croc. You've paid 80% of your players, it seems, $100 million. And at some point, you're going to New Orleans Saints this thing. It's got to happen. There's no way that they haven't rolled out void years to make all this work. And while John Lynch is a smart guy, Kyle Shanahan's a great coach. What the hell is going to happen this offseason? And I know it's predicated upon Brock Purdy. For those that don't know, Brock Purdy is eligible for an extension, but they don't need to extend him. He is under contract for another year, making $1 million or something. So what is the most likely summer going to look like with free agency specifically for the 49ers?
The 49ers have been trying to hold it together. And you talked about them paying guys. And you could justify every payment. Deebo Samuel, when he got paid, this is a guy that came off on the All-Pro year, 1,400 receiving yards, another 300-plus rushing yards, and he kind of handcuffed the 49ers. You're going to have to pay me big money. So he's making $20+ million per year. You got guys like Fred Warner. When he signed, he was the highest paid player at his position, and justifiably so. He's had multiple All-Pro seasons. George Kittle, when he signed, highest paid player at his position, again, multiple All-Pros. And just had another 1,000-yard season this year. Christian McCaffrey, they gave him more money this offseason, and that hasn't quite worked out. But coming off of a year where he was Offensive Player of the Year in the NFC, it's hard to say you shouldn't pay him. Trent Williams, another guy, All-Pro again, made him one of the highest-paid guys at his position. Again, justifiably so. So the 49ers have had to continue to pay guys, and they're able to justify it. But at some point, someone has to take the hit. And I thought the hit was going to be Brandon Ayuk.
Mhm.
When you look at the 49ers offense, it's not predicated on featuring any one pass catcher. Yes, they love to get the ball to Christian McCaffrey when he's out there. Yes, they love to get Deebo Samuel his touches, and they've kind of scaled back from that. But even though you have a guy like Ayuk who ended up getting the most targets, he still wasn't your guy with the most touches. He had the third most touches. He had less touches last season than a guy like Deebo Samuel. I thought they would say, you know what, we drafted a receiver in the first round. Let's trade Brandon Ayuk away. And instead, they paid him top dollar. He ended up getting hurt, not his fault. But now it does put them in a tight situation, because what are you going to do with three receivers, one rookie who just had his best game last week, having 140 yards on 8 catches and a touchdown? You're going to want to feature him a little bit more moving forward. And when I say feature, just have him a part of the offense in your plans. I think the odd man now is going to be Deebo Samuel.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's going to be their way of trying to get out from underneath some of this money. There's still a lot more money tied in. You talked about the void years, and there's a lot more people smarter than me that know how the salary cap stuff works. But they've added a lot of things to try to figure out ways to get these guys paid. And that's not even including guys like Javon Hargraves. Hargraves was paid handsomely when the 49ers signed him in free agency. And if I'm not mistaken, they kind of adjusted some of his money to where it kind of made sense. And we'll see if they're able to let him go. But there's going to be a lot of money tied into a lot of players. And I think the biggest issue for the 49ers is a lot of this money that's tied into these players is money that for guys who are older, hurt, or not quite themselves. And when I say older, I'm talking about Trent Williams, who is older and hurt. Christian McCaffrey, who you never know when that running back, when you're going to go off that running back cliff where the injuries start piling up. And right now, Christian McCaffrey's body, we'll see if it starts holding up. But people forget when the 49ers traded for him, that was a guy who came off of back-to-back seasons where he barely played. He was hurt. Then all of a sudden, he was great for the 49ers for a year and a half, but now he's starting to have those injuries again. And what's it going to look like next year? So I think that's the 49ers' biggest issue. Some of the guys that are going to be making a lot of money, what are they going to look like moving forward?
Right. Yeah, no, that's the fascinating part, is because all those guys who were drafted by the 49ers, kudos to the 49ers. One of the best moves they made was bringing in Trent Williams from Washington. One of the best moves they made. And it's hard to win a Super Bowl. It's hard to get Patrick Mahomes. It's hard for that to happen. Regardless of how it happened, whether it be Jimmy G or otherwise, it's hard for that to happen. And, not everybody wins, even though you got a great roster. Now with the Cardinals, one thing that I equate things to basketball terms a lot, because basketball is my first love and I knew it first. In basketball, when James Harden signs a $150 million contract, that's tradable, always. It's right when your favorite player gets a contract in basketball, all it does is make that person a trade asset. That's all it does. And understand that all their money they're going to get paid. Those are the only two things. People get excited. That's great. They're going to be gone in a year. We've seen it. NFL, you can't do that. These are anchors to this salary cap. You can't do it. You can't just say, oh, the dead cap hit is $90 million for Kyler. Well, trade him anyways. No, it's not how you do it. I think Dak Prescott's dead cap hit next year is $98 million. That's the whole salary cap. You can't trade him. It changes everything. And with the Cardinals on the other side, the opposite of what Croc just said is where the Cardinals are. They've got nobody under big money contract aside from, Kyler Murray, obviously, who's making $45 million a year, which is, a steal at this point. Budda Baker just got paid, but not an exorbitant amount. James Conner just got paid, not an exorbitant amount. Trey McBride is going to get the house, the car, the ocean, whatever he wants. He's going to reset the market because he's the next one. He's the next George Kittle. That was his comp coming out of Colorado State. And nobody else is going to get paid. Kazir White will get a contract extension. You hope Mac Wilson. But the rest of the guys are kids. The rest of the guys are rookies and second-year players, and they've got all their picks, and they've got $100 million to spend. So I've said this, and it's difficult. It's difficult to rationalize, but also not with an organization that's lost as much as the Cardinals had pretty much since their inception. This is the best situation going into an offseason in the history of the organization. This is something for this year, for next year, for the year after that. Monty Ossenfort, you did Locked On Draft. You take Paris Johnson Jr., you take BJ Ojulari, who missed the entire year. And then you take this year with Marvin, Darius Robinson, and Max Melton, and Trey Benson, and Tim Ryman's played okay. They've got a couple offensive linemen. Dante Stills in the 6th round is the best interior defensive lineman they have from last year. Like, the proof is there that he can do this, and you just got to put it all together. And then you add a couple pass rushers, and this team has taken it to the moon, at least in theory. So when you talk about having to remove pieces for the 49ers to make it work and getting to add pieces through free agency in the draft for the Cardinals to elevate it to make it work, very different ways. And we'll see what happens for 2025. But I think it was necessary in Week 18 when this game doesn't have any sort of playoff implications. Talking about the future for 10 minutes with my buddy is probably the best way to do it. Okay, pass to victory. We got to talk about this game. We're mandated. We have to. It's happening. Let's do that. It's going to be fun as always. Crossover Thursday. All right, this episode of Crossover Thursday is brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. The playoffs are almost here, man. Playoffs are almost here. Where the hell did the season go? But it's not too late to get in on the regular season action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now, new customers can finish the season strong with $250 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. 250 bones, man. FanDuel's, they've got so many different ways for you to put some cheese down. You like who's going to win the Super Bowl future? You can do that. Who's going to win the MVP future? You can do that. You can do single game parlays. There's so many different things you can do on FanDuel to get in the action. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com for your chance at $250 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. All right. Final path to victory of the year for both of these teams. I will go first. 3 things I want to see the Cardinals do. First, I don't want Kyler Murray anywhere near this field. We'll see. At this point, he's playing, I guess. Jonathan Gannon spoke with the media yesterday. James Conner is ruled out. That's as far as we know. But I want 3 things on the defensive side of the ball. I want them to unleash Dadrion Taylor-Demerson. We're going to see a Budda Baker light from the strong safety position. I want to see it in full display on Sunday. I want to see him get after Josh Dobbs. I want to see him get after the rush attack. I want to see him hawk receivers and tight ends who catch footballs. I want this to be his coming out party. It doesn't matter that this game doesn't matter for playoff implications, matters for draft, but not that much. I want to see this kid eat because I think he could be the future. An absolute steal out of Texas Tech in the 4th round by Monty Ossenfort this year. I want to see him eat. And then I just want to see these corners get better. That's it. I want to see an opportunistic game plan, which I'm sure Nick Rallis will put together and hopefully turn the 49ers over a couple times. This is what the future of this defense is going to look like. They can run free and we'll see what they do against a backup and with the 49ers. And then I just want to see some sort of semblance of a pass rush. This is the thing that the Cardinals have been maligned for the entirety of the season. Darius Robinson really hasn't hit his stride yet after being out for the majority of the season. I want to see the pass rush eat. I want to see a couple sacks, pressures, forced turnovers, things like that. This is I'm watching the defense game for me.
I think we're looking for some of the same things. In a game like this, and the 49ers, they haven't been in this position a whole lot where, it's week 18 and you have no shot at making the playoffs. But right now, Peacock and I, the thing that we've been going over the most is, what are some of the young guys look like and what are they doing? And are they giving you things that you can build off moving forward? I just referenced the game that Ricky Pearsall had last game. I feel like Ricky has been able to have that kind of game, but again, the 49ers and just how they call plays, I felt like it was inexcusable to have a 1st-round rookie receiver go a 3-game stretch with 0 catches and like 2 targets. Like, that's inexcusable. And you hear Brock try to take the blame for it. Oh, I gotta do a better job of getting him the ball. Brock, that's not your fault. I understand how Kyle's offense runs and what he's asking of guys. There's ways for Kyle to get his guys involved, and I want to see him get the young guy involved. Throw him screens. Do the end arounds like they did in his last game. Hit him with the crossers. Put him in motion. I think he's a terrific route runner and the guy that you want to get in space that has really good hands, and he has good speed. So let's continue to find different ways to get the ball into this young guy's hands so he can continue to build confidence in what his role is going to be moving forward. And not just with the 49ers, but his role with his quarterback. 49ers going to pay Brock Purdy a lot of money. This has to be a good pair that's going to have to work. And when you have this cooking and then you bring back Brandon Ayuk coming off of an injury, that should be something right there for the next 4 years that the 49ers are able to really capitalize off of. So I want to see that young guy do well. And when I go to the other side of the ball, it's the same thing. Big receiver over there with Arizona. I've continued to say, you know what? I want to see how Ronaldo Green, rookie out of Florida State, how's he play against Tyreek Hill? Well, damn, he plays Tyreek Hill pretty damn good. He's playing him tight. He looks confident. He's, tight coverage. Okay, well, like the next week, what does he look like? And he continued to look good. Okay, the next week. And now it's like, all right, you got big Marvin Harrison Jr. What is it going to look like when you go up against that big dog? And I'm curious to see this young 49ers cornerback compete. And he's done a good job of that throughout this season. And that's not to say that he hasn't had any type of ups and downs. There was kind of this miscommunication or kind of blown coverage on a 5-yard touchdown that I think Amon-Ra St. Brown caught in his last game. I don't know what happened, what the confusion was, but all right, does he fix that kind of communication issue moving on to this game? Because everything that you do from this game, you want to end on a high note, so it gives you that confidence throughout the offseason, feeling good moving forward. I've had seasons where the last game, it didn't go very well, and you have like this sour taste in your mouth with just how you played. And I've had games where, man, I finished on a high note. And then moving forward, you have all these other thoughts of like just this confidence and going about the offseason as if, hey, I am the guy. And I'm going to put in the work to continue to be the guy. And, I'm in my coach's good graces. So can Ronaldo Green have that type of game to where the mindset moving forward is, man, I know that I'm confident with me and the coaches are confident with me as well.
Yeah, you're talking about Ricky Pearsall, like it's like the two Spider-Men meme pointing at each other when we're talking about Drew Petzing and Marvin Harrison Jr. Same exact thing. It's just like, this is the scheme. It's run first. It's play action. It's tight end. It's the adults in the room first, and then the rookies get their reps. And it's been frustrating because Marvin Harrison Jr. went 4. He didn't go, he didn't go late in the first round. And it's playing wide receivers hard in the NFL. I think Ricky Pearsall is a little bit just thicker than Marv. Marv is, 6'3", 210, but hit 50-50 balls, they're 0-100 balls. Like he can't go up and get 50-50 balls yet. What Marvin Harrison Jr. is elite at, which we've seen myriad times in college and now in the pros, if it's him versus the sidelines, he wins. If it's him versus the back of the end zone, he wins. Catch 2 feet down, touchdown, catch 2 feet down, first down. We've seen it 98% of the time that way. I think he dropped 1 ball on the sideline, but the frustrations are there. Like the jump for both of these guys from year 1 to year 2, Ricky Pearsall may have more of an integral part in the offense, especially with Brandon Ayuk out, than Marvin Harrison Jr. Trey McBride's there, because Trey McBride is Travis Kelce. Trey McBride is a wide receiver 1 who plays tight end. So it's going to be difficult, but listen, they'll figure out the scheme. This is a growing thing for both organizations, and I have a feeling both of these teams are going to look very different come 2025 when we start to do our crossovers then. Anything else to add before we jet?
Yeah, you had said one thing earlier, and you talked a lot about some of the things that you were looking forward to seeing. Mm-hmm. Are you looking forward to seeing an Arizona Cardinals win? Because right now it looks like the 49ers and the Cardinals are kind of jockeying for a higher draft pick, and in any type of competitive, any type of competition, you don't want to see teams go out there to try to lose. But
right,
this game is kind of meaningful in the sense of a win or a loss, and you kind of want that last place schedule. So does a win or a loss do anything for the Cardinals in this game as it pertains to having a last place?
No, 49ers. I just saw Kyle Odegaard, who's a great mind of one of my friends in the Phoenix market, tweeted out that due to even if the Cardinals lose due to some random tertiary tiebreaker, the 49ers still get the 4th place schedule no matter what. So
and does that mean a higher draft pick as well?
That depends. I believe I'm unsure about that. I'll tell you what. I'd love to see the Cardinals win this game. This isn't something, I don't care, 13th pick, 16th pick, doesn't matter. This is a bad draft anyways. You're going to get a top 10 player there because so many people are going to be taking quarterbacks in the top 7. You very well know that that's just what it is now. So I'm not too worried about that. Like last year where they played Seattle, it's like they're a Matt Prater missed 50-yard field goal away from picking 5th instead of 4th. I don't think this is that. And the Cardinals schedule is so much more difficult than what the 49ers have next year. Cardinals luck. Eric Crocker at Crocky209 on Twitter. Clancy's Corner for me, Alex Clancy. Happy New Year. and enjoy the game. And then we will do our crossovers. We'll do crossovers this offseason for sure because we like each other. But we will talk to you in 2025 for the sanctioned Locked On crossover Thursday next year. Happy New Year. We'll talk to you on our respective podcast tomorrow.